Welcome back to the channel, my friends. I'm so glad that we're doing a joint video here with Claudia from the Mostly Awesome podcast. Thank you so much for being here, Claudia.
Thank you for inviting me.
So we already did one video about with Ruby as well, and on the Q&A of what it's like to be a Centerling. And yeah, it's just going to be a little bit more today about first part on what is our personal experiences, what is CDTM and Manage More, maybe similarities and differences, and what it's like to be a podcast host. And I think we can share some stuff there as well and some interesting stories. And then the second part is going to be a bit more about soft skills and hard skills which we've learned, and highly requested as always, like how can you prepare, or how did we prepare, maybe some tips we can share. So definitely check out both videos. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Mostly Awesome podcast. I love what you guys do. I think it's like a really great idea. So I'm just wondering, kind of, because I'm also doing these episodes, like how has it been like for you to be a podcast host?
Well, actually, it's been a journey. I would say that the three of us, Ali, Ruby, and I, really enjoy meeting new entrepreneurs or PhD students, everyone within the ecosystem. We really enjoy talking to them and getting to learn about what it is they do, their motivations, why it is that they decided to go on the path that they decided on. So I feel like that's really enriching for us, and of course getting the grasp on how to edit the recordings and everything has been of course a challenge, but we are really happy that we were elected to be the podcast hosts of CDTM.
Yeah, how does that work actually? How do you get elected? Do you need to apply?
I mean, it's not an election per se, it's more like you apply.
Yeah.
At CDTM we have a task force, and I mean we are all in the marketing department task force.
Okay, got it.
And within that there are sub teams, and one of the teams is the podcast. Awesome. So we just applied for it, yeah.
That sounds really good. I mean, I can definitely echo your editing dilemma and everything, because it's so much work. And I mean, I think you guys interview really very renowned guests from kind of the ecosystem. So I'm just wondering if there's any moment or any like maybe statement you still remember, or how it was like for you kind of to interview the guests. I mean, I can maybe share something. Well, first off, I think it's super interesting how honest and frank some of them are. Some are a bit more guarded, you know, because like my first interview with Davio Scottat, he's like the CEO of Spreadly now, and I think they're super successful now. And he was like, yeah, don't focus on studies, just do your entrepreneurship thing, and a bit controversial. And then maybe somebody like Professor Schönberger, he's like very calm and very, you know, he chooses his words quite wisely. And so I think that's interesting in guests to kind of, how are they personally also interview situations like? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a few off the top of my mind, but for example, Gyri, she's a founder from CDTM, and she was just telling us how it's important to push yourself, and also to try out things more than once. She mentioned that she had applied to CDTM, I think she said 3 or 4 times. So if she had given up after the first or second time, she would not be where she is right now. So she's really determined, and she's a really hard worker.
And that's such an important message for everybody. That's why I also did the video on being rejected, because I think it's so important. Like, everybody gets rejected at some point, and it's just what you do after that that really matters, I feel like.
I agree.
So cool. So let's talk a little bit about kind of CDTM and Manage More, and I think what they kind of have in common and what is maybe different, because I think you mentioned now that the podcast is part of the task forces. So I think we have like a similar concept at Manage More. I think it's mainly about kind of contributing back to the community, right? And doing something internally, or maybe you can, I think that's something we might have in common, and maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, so when choosing a task force, you choose it and you have to be at least on the task force for 3 semesters. And only after that can you graduate, apart from doing trend seminar, MPD, ELAB, electives. The task force has to be done for 3 semesters.
And can you switch?
Yeah, you can switch. I can do now too, and then if I go abroad or I take an internship, I can pause and then come back 1 more semester after.
Oh, okay. Because for example, so with us it's called internal projects, and we can change once. So we have to do 1-2 semesters to kind of have a little bit of continuity, right? Because otherwise there's like a lot of And I did international cooperation, so
nice.
yeah, we're talking with Cambridge at the moment, also like unrelated from the fact that I'm going to be going there. And yeah, so it's,
you're gonna be going
there. I know. You're very welcome, as I said, to be there. Yeah, so I think something which I also want to talk about, and I think that's maybe a difference a little bit, is the first months at CDTM are like super intense, right? I think you need to be there like full time.
Yeah.
And maybe you can like share a little bit, because I didn't find so much on that in the internet, kind of what are the first weeks like? Like I think you're going to like a hut or somewhere. Like, I don't know, how was maybe your first weeks, months, if you can share something?
Well, I have a lot of good memories from the first weeks, of course. It's Trend Seminar, and basically for the first week, kickoff week, we went somewhere, but then this semester, the fall 23, they went to Electives, which is an amazing place to be at. Yeah, they have a lake, they have the mountains, so it was really, really cool. And basically for 1 week, you do the kickoff, and then you, in the next 6-7 weeks, you have different phases. The first one is research phase, so you have a few like legal research, economic research, a few trends that you have to research, and then you go into scenario phase, which is what the current class is doing right now as of 7th of September. And then you have the last phase, which is a business phase, and you basically develop a product which you then have to pitch in the final presentation. And it's really intense because it's like a 24/7 program, in the sense that it's intense because you also want to be at the center, because you have a lot of classes, you have a lot of seminars, you're getting a lot of input from guest lecturers, but you also want to spend time with the new class, so that you actually get to bond with each other and get to know each other in a sense. So yeah, I have very good memories of Trend Seminar.
That sounds so cool, because I think so at Manage More to kind of, with us it's a bit shorter, so we do like a boot camp week, where we do like 1 week where we go through the innovation cycle, kind of the double diamond, and then at the end we also pitch, and then we have, before that we have like a weekend where we're together and just kind of getting to know each other. But I think in general, maybe something we can talk about also is that you mentioned, right, Trend Seminar, MPD, eLab, and I feel like that's my impression. It's like basically the innovation cycle, but like in different phases,
perhaps.
And we do like in one semester, we do all of it, but I think more surface level, whereas you go super in depth over 3 semesters. We kind of focus differently, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. So basically the Trend Seminar is done in the semester break.
Yeah.
And then we have MPD, which is 2 days per week.
Yeah.
For 1 semester, and then we have eLab, which is 1 day per week for another semester. So technically it's two semesters and
a semester break.
And a semester break.
Yeah.
And then in that period you also have the task force and electives that you have to take.
Yeah, right.
And you can always pause and come back to it later to be able to graduate.
Yeah, awesome. I think maybe something, because we also can obviously pause, and I think something which people might be interested in as well is, can you join if you're quite late? Like, let's say the next semester you're going to do your master thesis or something. Do you think in general like people can still join?
Yeah, people can still join, so long as you're a student at either LMU or TUM. If you express how you think CDTM is going to benefit yourself and how you can benefit and what you can bring to the community, I think there should not be a problem.
Okay, awesome.
Like from the 3rd semester onwards of your bachelor's, you are eligible to apply. And of course, if you're not a student, not anymore. But even if you were to do your master thesis next semester, I think it would be totally fine.
Okay, cool. Because that's the same at Manage More, and I think it's important for people to know that, because maybe they think, oh, I need to be enrolled the whole time. But as far as Manage More, you need to be enrolled at the beginning, but you don't have to be the whole time student.
Exactly.
You need the time, obviously, but like you don't have to be a student. Yeah. Cool. I want to talk about your classes and the community, because I think everybody is going to say their community is the best, and I've seen the events that yours, so I think it looks insane. But yeah, I'm just wondering a little bit, like, how is it for you with like between classes, or with us as generations? How close are you? Like, is there like, I don't know, meetings or mentorings, or like how do you interact with each other, would you say?
within CDTM.
Yeah.
So we have mentors. They are usually alumni, so they are a bit older than us in that regard. But within the last few classes, I would say that there are a lot of exchanges in the sense that, for example, every semester there's a meet the new class where essentially it's the new class.
Yeah.
And then people from the community, like from CDTM, come to the center to meet the new class. We also have Christmas parties, a Christmas party every year. Then, I would say there are a lot of events, and not just events in terms of partying, but there are also in the electives, they are open to everyone in CDTM. So even if you've already graduated, you can still take an elective, and therefore we are able to be with students that were at CDTM in 2012, for example. It's not usually the case, but it's allowed. And then, for example, there are also ski trips, hiking trips, and of course a lot of people sign up to that and we get to know each other. But mainly through events, networking events, and also joint events that we do with Manage and More, running dinners. We are always
That's the best.
Meeting up with new people.
That's so cool. I love, I think in that sense it's quite similar. We also do the ski trips and the parties and everything, but I love the fact that you can still be also coming as an alumni. I think that's so cool. Because if you've got the time and it might be something you're interested in. I've got a friend of mine who's at CDTM, and she now went to Berkeley and she's already graduated. So I think that's apparently also a thing. You can still go abroad. I don't know if you're a student.
It's not the norm, but perhaps that's allowed.
Yeah, I want to talk about something because we both also work and have worked next to being at CDTM and Manage More, and I think that's something which a lot of people always ask me and are a bit afraid of, can I work and do one of these programs? And I'm just wondering, maybe do you have anything to share, or how it was for you? Did you work the whole time, or how easily is it kind of combined? I think you've got the advantages right next door.
So I would say that it depends on the experience that you want to get out of CDTM or perhaps Manage and More, and how good you know yourself. For example, during trend seminar, it's advised that you don't work.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Of course, you can still work, perhaps less hours, but it's impossible to still work 20 hours. That's impossible time-wise related. Perhaps you can take holidays. CDTM also offers a scholarship on a need-based. So I think that perhaps you can stop it for 7 weeks and then resume your work. And then throughout MPD, which is Managing Product Development, I think you can work 20 hours max, but then depends on whether you want to take classes or not that many classes. It always depends on that and on the experience that you want to take out of CDTM. For example, do you want to go to every single event? Do you want to restrict yourself to not going to so many events, taking up more classes, working less? It's always a balance. So you just have to figure out what fits you best. Or perhaps you can pause your studies for one semester, focus on work and on CDTM. It really just depends. But of course, it's impossible to do MPD plus working 20 hours plus a full-time student.
Yeah, I think I would really say something similar. I think for us, the first semester at Manage More is definitely the most intense. And I did research phase, and I was working, and I was studying.
Wow.
And so it was a bit much. I wouldn't recommend that. But I think, maybe lower the hours, because I think that's something which is maybe a bit different from us, is that the structure is then more flexible. I feel like with you, because you do the innovation cycle, it's Trans-Seminar, MPD, ELAB, and with Manage More you can choose different, you can be a coach, you can do your founding project. So starting the second semester, it's really fizzles out a little bit, and it's more flexible, I would say. But I think the advantage for you is that, that's my impression at least, that you need to do all of these courses, and so you kind of mix between classes, because people are doing MPD maybe a bit later, or ELAB, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah, for example, I'm now going to do ELAB, and I'm sure that I'm going to be with people from other classes, 100%. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, that's
so nice. Of course, I love my class, but it's also nice to meet other people, apart from in events or in parties.
Yeah. Awesome.
I must say that maybe you should also do a video on FOMO.
Oh yes.
Yeah, because I feel like you were saying, in the first phase, I was super busy. I'm also sure you were busy apart from all of the things you were doing because you wanted to go to every event.
Yeah.
And I feel like during Trend Seminar, you as a student will want to go to every single event possible out there, but you have to restrict yourself and be fine with not going to every single event.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That is such a big thing. I was talking to somebody about that because there's always like a new event going on, and I feel like with the new class or the new generation at Management, you also want to integrate, right? And you don't want to miss the party where everything happens. But I think it's true. You need to also take care of your necessities and just kind of chill a little bit at least. You're gonna see each other.
It's fine if you don't go to the 5 events planned for the week.
Yeah.
And you just go to 2 or 3.
It's still enough. You're not gonna socially starve.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think this gave us like a really good overview on kind of Management, CDTM, and I think I talk about the differences, like, you know, you guys have credits. With us it's like less credits, which we can get accredited and all of that. In other videos.
45 ECTS.
Yeah, 45 exactly. And it's, I mean, you have the Master of Science with honors, right, at the end of this. And I think with Management, because it's an ideational scholarship, I think we can maybe get accredited like 18 credits round, but not for everybody. It depends on what you study. So I would say in terms of like
the 45 credits, I don't think are the 45 full-on credited for a degree. They are like the
extra
honors.
Yeah, exactly. For you to have the Master of Science with honors, right?
Some of them can be exchanged or credited.
Oh.
Only for some specific subjects. Don't quote me on this, but I know that for the trend phase it's 12 credit, 12 ECTS, and you can get 9 or 11 or 12 if you do Tumbevel or informatics.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I'm not 100% sure.
No worries. I mean, but I think that can also like give you a bit of an idea, like 12 credits for Trend Seminar, how much work I think you should also be putting in, right?
Yeah.
I think, you know, like in a good way, like it's worth the effort. So
yeah, for sure.
So with that in mind, maybe we can talk in now the second part of the video a little bit about kind of you know, the application, what maybe motivated us to apply and everything, and what maybe some of our main learnings have been. I think that would be super cool to share, because I think that's something I also like to, when people ask me like, hey, like Management, great community, but what did you actually learn in terms of hard skills? I think that's like a interesting thought, and I was wondering if we can talk a little bit about that. What was like maybe one of the main learnings for you? I can also start sharing whatever you
can start if you want.
Because I think for me, for example, the whole like double diamond, to understand it in depth, like for example the importance of like the user interviews and like the opportunity phases. So for example, you look at different opportunity fields and how you validate all of them, was something which we talk, and I think it's the same for CDTM. We interact with so many like really experienced founders that you really learn a lot about how you structure this process. Yeah. You know, because I feel like, you know, there is a double diamond, but how do you actually do it in practice? You know, you set up these processes and all of that, and I think now I would feel like really comfortable doing these innovation processes with somebody else. So I think that's like the main hard skill, let's say, I learned, that I would be to guide somebody through the innovation process.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that via CDTM, all of my classmates and I, we've all learned how to do what you just explained, but also not just within the entrepreneurship ecosystem. We also learned how to do like better research, for example. Also CDTM, it's not just focused for future entrepreneurs and future founders. It's also for students that are perhaps thinking they want to pursue a PhD, for people that want to go into consulting, into investment banking. Lately not so much, but perhaps perhaps I want to to practice law because my background is in law. So I would say that through CDTM you actually get to learn about all of the things that you can accomplish, and you're not bound to the thing that you studied, but rather you actually, but this is not a hard skill. I'm just like talking a bit much.
I love you sharing. No worries.
I went a bit off topic. I'm sorry, but yeah, I just want to emphasize the fact that if you pursue the CDTM program, it's not just for founders or for future founders. You also learn other skills that would prove to be very useful for your future career, be that in academia, in the private sector, in the public sector, wherever you want to be.
And I think that's like, we talked in the last video about the differences, but I think that's the main difference, which is a great asset if you do CDTM, is the whole research and PhD part of it. Because I think at Manager More we do like personality development, and a lot of people also go to consultancy or corporates or whatever, but we don't really have that kind of scientific thinking as much, I would say. So I think that's like a main thing which you can also learn, and which is a hard skill, right? I think you need to like iterate on that, and that's not easy at the beginning, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. In terms of like electives, I know you have like a lot of electives which are always changing. I'm wondering, as with us it's called just courses, do you have like a favorite one?
Actually, like we just got sent today the new electives for the upcoming semester. I mean, for this semester, and yeah, you have to be very quick because
right away.
We get them sent now, and then in 1 week, like at 9 a.m. they send a new email, and then we just have to sign up super fast. But yeah, I would say that I wouldn't say I have a favorite elective. I've just done 2 so far, and we just have to do 3 to complete the course. I think perhaps I'll do 4 or 5, I don't know, never say never. So last year I took an elective on my well-being and everything, which I thought was really interesting. It was more about thinking about your life choices, your purpose, your career life plans. So for me that was really interesting. And also I took one in digital marketing. Yeah, and then this semester we just got sent an email today with the electives for the upcoming semester, and there's one on the basics of fundraising, which are taught by Hanno Renna and also by Michael Wax, which I think is a very popular elective, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to take that. But of course there are also others like project management. Last semester we had a really interesting elective on building robots, and then we had a robot fight, not like a big robot, like a nano robot fight against each other, and we live streamed it through the CDTM social media, which was like really interesting, and everyone in the community was invited. It was so like nice. A really cool vibe. But yeah, I would say that all of the electives are super interesting. Also, it's usually done by a centerling and by a CA, in the sense that if I'm super interested and passionate about legal tech, I can just go to a CA, so to a center assistant, and tell them how cool it would be to be able to offer an elective on legal tech. And then I just contact some professors from LMU in the sphere of law, also perhaps some public servants or from the government, and also some lawyers. And then I put together with the CA the elective. Course. And then I can basically choose the next elective for the next semester.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So really all of the electives are offered. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's a main difference as well. But I think that's incredibly cool because you can really give back to the community and share. I think for me, one of my favorites was kind of on the power of the voice. So we were with Antenne Bayern reporter, and he kind of analyzed our voices. So we had to speak in front of him, and he would kind of say like, what is our body language, but then also, I don't know, how fast are we speaking, how high, how low, is there pauses, and he really analyzed it, and that was so interesting, because I feel like you could learn a lot about like gestures, but not as much about your voice. And it is also super important, so I think that was really interesting.
Yeah, I feel like those type of electives are super interesting. Of course, the ones that are academic in a sense are also really interesting, really fulfilling for you. But the ones that are about voice or perhaps meditation or
something different.
Yeah, it's something different that you would not usually get in your university.
And I think that's so great that you can kind of expand on yourself. And I think last week or something, there was like this post on Fast and Curious, because CA talked about the CDTM with Lea Sophie Kramer and Verena Pausner. I think now the applications are going to explode pretty much, if they were not already exploding. But I'm just wondering, kind of, maybe we can talk a little bit about what motivated us to apply to CDTM and manage more, like, how was the process? Because you went from a legal background, so I'm just wondering, like, how did you get there?
Yeah, so I have a legal background. I would say I have quite a solid legal background in the sense that I've studied my bachelor's and master's solely on law. And for that reason, I wanted to also explore perhaps technology management, technology. I thought, okay, perfect, CDTM, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought it would be really good for me to be able to also learn about something else, other skills, other than law. So that's why I initially decided to apply to CDTM. Of course, I knew something about the ecosystem, and now I could not have decided on a better decision, of course. But yeah, that was the main reason. I don't want to leave my legal career apart. I just wanted to learn something different.
And I think that's such an important message, that people know that you don't have to have a business background or a technology background. You also can have a law or medicine or whatever. Like, I think it's nice if you have these, like, and that's also the case at Manage More. We have some medical doctors, and we don't have so many lawyers, but we have some people like.
I'm actually the second one.
Okay, no, but I mean, you know, like on the process of becoming a lawyer, and so I think that's super cool. I think for me it was, everybody was kind of, because I had worked at a startup. I was like, oh, is this really for me as a founder associate? Like, can I be a founder? Is there something? And I feel like I needed some clarity more, and I feel like those two programs are really a great way for you to experiment in because I'm a bit more risk averse, to kind of experiment in a little bit more of a safe setting what it could be like to found. Yeah. And I think that's super cool. So that's one. Yeah. Okay, so let's say you decided you want to apply. I think it's super nice if we can, like, maybe share a little bit, like, how we prepared for that kind of our applying, because it's quite similar. You have to do like a motivational statement and like an essay, which is for you like one question, and for us it's like 3 different questions. Maybe do you have any way to share like how you went about it, anything that helped you? I don't know.
Of course. So my advice would be, if you're thinking of applying to CDTM, to Manage on More, to whatever in your life, even a job, just go for it. Even if you think you don't have the requisites, just go for it. You don't lose anything. You only lose time, maybe. And now we have time. I would want to think so. So just go for it. And then in terms of the application for CDTM, we have the written phase, which is like where you send all of your documents, and then there's an interview stage. So I would say that a lot of students, perhaps when they are writing their motivation letter, they are already thinking of the interview. But in my opinion, I think you just have to focus and put all of your efforts in making the best motivation letter you can, in answering the question as good as you can. Usually there is a question, like an essay, that you have to write. You have 2 questions to choose from, and I would just say focus solely on that. And after you have been invited to the interview, you can stress out over the interview. But I would not even think about anything interview related, because the cut is quite big.
Awesome. So you said don't stress about the interview. Maybe last point, like, was there any way you kind of, because when I talked with Adam, I don't know if you're going to change that at some point, but he said like it's cases which you kind of need to work through, either, I don't know, depending on your background. Is there any way you kind of prepared for it? Would you say, like, because for me, I knew that Manage More interviews are a bit more on the personal side, so they're less kind of technical, I would say. So I didn't prepare actually as much, but I don't know if you prepared more.
Actually, then once you get invited to the interview, you can start stressing out.
Then it's the point.
Yeah, you can now start stressing out. But usually it's divided into 2 parts. You have the personal interview, and then you have the case. They will send you all of the details via email. But yeah, in the personal interview, it's more like a get to know you. You are put into some scenarios. For example, like if you were in a team, what would you do? Yep. In this case, for example. So that's more the personal. We want to get to know you as a person. Would we be okay, comfortable working with you or not in the same team? And then the second section, the second phase, is the case interview. And of course, it will vary if you are an engineer student, a business student, or a law student, or like medicine student, or psychology student. Of course, I'm not gonna have the same capabilities as someone that does engineering.
Of course.
So they will tailor it according to your background. Yeah. So if you don't know. If you're an engineer student and you are stressed out because maybe they'll ask you something about business, don't stress out over that, but of course do learn the basics. And yeah,
that's really good advice.
Yeah, perhaps if someone is in the interview stage, they could just practice with some consultancy cases.
That's a really good advice. I think that's really good, because I think then you can have both the basics and then also focus on what your core competencies are, which you're bringing into CDTM, right?
Yeah. Like I knew, for example, that I was not going to be asked something very technical.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think, okay, so kind of to finish it off a little bit, I think for Manage More, it's kind of like you have the program management and alumni actually, and they talk to you about everything. So it's more personal, like you said, like how was your team experience, and they build on the motivational statement. So they ask you a lot about that as well, so kind of to expand on it. So know your motivational statement, otherwise it might be a bit off.
Yeah, and also express why it is that you really want to be part of CDTM, maybe Manage More, and why you think you could benefit from it, and how you would fit with the CDTM community.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Lola. This was such a great episode, really, to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for deciding on this idea.
That's really great. Definitely check out the Mostly Awesome podcast. They have some great stuff right there.
Yeah.